The Chargers' terrible 2023 season is finally over, but the good news is things aren't all bad because they did find a way to get the 5th overall pick.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer. We've been covering the Chargers now for 8 full seasons now, and this is our 6th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen tonight as we turn the page into a new era of Chargers football. To make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. Well, there's not much to talk about from the actual game, right? The Chargers end up losing to the Chiefs backups, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I think the bigger thing here was the Chargers not finding a way to accidentally win and ruin their draft position, because now we know they will end up with the 5th overall pick. That should have been the 4th overall pick. Thanks a lot, Matt Prater. But the good news is after the struggles, the next time we watch Chargers football, it will be Justin Herbert. And most importantly, it'll be a new head coach and a new general manager, because that's what it is now. I mean, that's it. Things have begun. This is where all things turn to, okay, finding a way to make sure this next part you get right. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. David, this was a weird game, and I know, you don't like to watch the Chargers lose. It's even harder to root for the Chargers to lose, but like I've talked about before, at least when the Chargers do something very Chargerish, right, when they Charger right in front of you, then it's like, okay, well, at least something good is coming out of this. And I think the most Chargers thing that could have happened in this game was probably them actually finding a way to win, which they almost did. They took the lead with 4 minutes and 6 seconds left in this game, but good old Blaine Gabbert led the Chiefs to victory. But most importantly, it secured the Chargers with the 5th overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I definitely don't enjoy watching the Chargers lose, and this has been a tough season. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, you finished 5-12, especially after all the expectations that the Chargers had going into this season, making a playoff berth the season before, falling short, obviously, and then coming back, extending a lot of contracts, trying to go for it again, and then to ultimately just crash and burn so spectacularly. And I mean, I guess if you're going to crash and burn, you might as well do it to where you have some weaponry to use for the future. And so I think that's the best way to look at it is, yeah, you never want to watch your team lose, but hey, they have the 5th overall pick now. They have the ability to give Justin Herbert potentially a brand new shiny weapon to utilize for the future.
Yeah, whoever they pick at that pick is going to be something for Justin Herbert, whether directly or indirectly, if it's an offensive lineman, whoever that ends up being. But what this does do is give you more leverage than you would have had if they lost. If the Chargers had lost this game, they would be picking 7th overall in the draft. And shout out to the Cardinals, who couldn't find a way to pull things off. Matt Prater had a chance, David, to hit a 51-yard field goal to win the game for the Cardinals in a big-time upset over the Seahawks in that game. He was 23 of 23 on game-winning or tying kicks in the final 2 minutes of a game or overtime in his career. And then when Chargers fans need him most, Matt Prater ends up shanking the 51-yard field goal. And David, we were this close to getting to daydream about the Chargers potentially pairing Justin Herbert with Marvin Harrison Jr., which would have been the ultimate outcome, I think, of the day. So very, very good, but that one is still kind of sitting there.
Yeah, that one annoyed me. I'm not going to lie. Especially, hey, Matt Prater, you were in the division for a really, really long time.
Still screwing the Chargers.
You hit a bunch of kicks against the Chargers to win games. Yeah. And, of course, the one time they need you to go out there and make a 50-plus yard field goal, of course, you let the Chargers down again. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, and, of course, it's always fun to think about trying to grab the best football player, best wide receiver in college football, and giving him to your superstar quarterback who can throw it the length of the football field. Man, that was fun for all of about 5 seconds, but that's pretty much over. I feel like that dream, I mean, obviously you never know what happens on draft night.
Sure.
There can be a ton of trades. A lot of things can happen, but it seems highly unlikely that now that the Chargers are stuck at the 5th overall pick, that, the Cardinals or, the Patriots, one of those teams wouldn't see themselves trying to grab their weapon of the future.
Yeah, and it'll be very interesting to see how draft day goes because, you do have at the top of the draft 3 teams who seemingly need a quarterback. Will the Bears stick with Justin Fields after kind of going out on a whimper in their last game and obviously a few years of, film to watch on him? It would seem crazy for them to potentially pass up on someone like Caleb Williams at number 1, right? Are you going to that sold on Justin Fields? Or just trade it down like they did last year and get a giant haul. But seems like you do that. You make that trade last year to have a chance at someone like a Caleb Williams at the top of the draft. So you could definitely see, okay, Chicago, number 1, taking a quarterback, right? Then you have Washington, number 2. They're almost 100% taking a quarterback. Yeah. Then New England, who has McCorkle-Jones, so they're taking a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have the Cardinals, right? And the Cardinals have Kyler Murray. That's his name. That's his actual God-given name. But when the Cardinals at 4, now it's like, okay, well, they definitely, with Kyler Murray on that big contract, could decide to go with Marvin Harrison Jr., and it seems like they'd be dumb if they didn't. But the Chargers picking out 5 overall, what that basically guarantees you, especially if those top 3 quarterbacks end up going the way that it seems like they might right now, 1, 2, 3, you're getting the next guy after Marvin Harrison Jr., which is still leaving you with some pretty incredible options, right? Like I said, you could go offensive tackle, and there's 3 guys who will probably be top 10 picks, or at least, you could make the argument for up there. Or you could get that explosive weapon for Justin Herbert. We've seen
Malik
it, right?
Neighbors, come on down.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to have a choice of a Brock Bowers or a Malik Neighbors. So you do have the leverage at pick 5, right, which is still, hey, there's a bunch of teams who could try to come up and get a Michael Penix potentially, or whoever that is, right? But you do give yourself, if you want to, a chance to give, where someone like Joe Burrow gets a Jamar Chase, right? You have someone like Tua who gets a Jalen Waddle. Like all of these guys had the bad seasons, got the top pick, used it on an offensive weapon, and whether it's Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors, the Chargers will have that chance to give someone Justin Herbert that the Chargers realistically, had things gone according to plan, would have never had a chance at.
Yeah, we've seen throughout many different, shades in history how important a good tight end would be, and how much that could help an offense out. Obviously, look no further than Antonio Gates and what he did for Phillip Rivers. You saw that for many, many years. And obviously Travis Kelce, what he's done for Patrick Mahomes has been just a killer target, a guy who's been one of the best in the game. But it's a security blanket. So, I would love to see a Brock Bowers or, giving, a Malik Neighbors to Justin Herbert, an explosive playmaker. I think obviously the Chargers tried to do that with Quentin Johnston. That did not exactly work out this year. It was kind of a down year for him, but you have another opportunity. Now you get to take one of the best, absolute best playmakers in the draft and give it to Justin Herbert and see exactly what he can do with it. Because, hey, Justin's only 25 years old. He's still at the kind of the beginning part of his career, going into the prime of his career. So I think it would be a fantastic choice to be able to give Justin Herbert a great weapon that he can grow with, that he can torch opposing defenses with.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the Chargers wide receiver room, obviously the guys
they're on the older side.
Isn't necessarily going to be the guys that are in that room in 2024, because you have huge contract hits like a Keenan Allen and a Mike Williams to go with Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston, guys that are in that room as well. But Keenan Allen's up there. Mike Williams is likely gone. You have a chance to secure that offensive weapon that could pair very nicely with Justin Herbert. And, I think you have to give a tip of the cap to the tank commander himself, Gift Smith. And all jokes aside, I feel like Gift Smith really got this team trying again. He really got this team to battle. He got this team to go out there and try to win. Even though we didn't want him to win, he had them out there playing hard and trying to win. So shout out to Gift Smith, who likely, interim head coaches, that's almost always a death sentence. So I don't think we're going to see Gift Smith back, but I thought he did a really, really admirable job. You could see how much the players wanted to play for him. And I think he showed that, hey, this team can be competitive even without Justin Herbert. Can they win without Justin Herbert? Absolutely not. Because the good thing is the next time we see the Chargers on the field, we will get to see Justin Herbert. And I think if you didn't get a respect for what Justin Herbert brings to the table after watching the last 4 weeks of the season, I don't know what to tell you, because they brought in Kellen Moore, and even with Kellen Moore, right, he couldn't win a game with Easton Stick, and it seems like now kind of the whole entire Kellen Moore experiment kind of failed as they tried to kind of save the current regime that's in place. So we're going to get into all of that in Khalil Mack's record-setting day coming up right after this. First, I need to tell you guys that the Chargers head coaching job is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. That job search the Chargers will be doing not only for their head coach, but also for their general manager. And when you're hiring for your small business or a bigger business like the Chargers, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which make it the best place to hire, maybe even Jim Harbaugh on there. And hiring is super easy when you have that many quality candidates. So get your year off to the best start possible. You're starting a new year and you want to make sure whoever you bring in is the right fit, and the best place to get those quality kind of candidates is with LinkedIn Jobs. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. David, it was really, really rough to watch the Chargers offense, not just in this last game, but really over this entire season, especially because it's Justin Herbert. And the other big thing was just like watching Justin Herbert have to get completely battered the way we had to watch this season, right? 2 significant injuries, 2 different broken fingers, a broken finger on each hand. Like, the Chargers could not protect Justin Herbert, and that was a big part of the problem. And I think is honestly one of the underlying kind of reasons that the Kellen Moore experiment failed. Going into this season, we knew the defense was an issue, right? And we talked about that all along. Kellen Moore's not going to fix your defense. What it can give you is hopefully a better chance to keep up with all these teams when Brandon Staley's defense is giving up, a ton of points, as it usually did, right? But I think we hoped for a lot more, David, and in the end, it was an attempt to get the most out of this offense to end up maybe potentially saving Brandon Staley's job when they made that move, and Tom Telesco's as well. But in the end, I think it was the running game and the issues on the offensive line that ended up kind of just dooming this thing, and we never kind of got to see that excitement that we were hoping for when Kellen Moore took over.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I was at as well. I was definitely very excited about Kellen Moore coming in. I liked the pedigree. I liked what he did in Dallas. I liked what he did with backup quarterbacks, even when they were out there. I mean, it all looked good. It all sounded good.
If there was a time to win with the backup quarterback, he got his chance to do that, right? I guess Cooper Rush is that good.
Exactly, and it didn't turn out that good this time around. But, yeah, there was a lot of real issues with this offense, and I think the protection breaking down in the critical moments just time and time and time again was one of the big problems. Obviously, the absence of any kind of consistent running game was prevalent throughout this season.
As we saw in this game, too, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that happened in this game that were kind of microcosms of the stuff that went wrong all season.
It really was. I mean, you have Austin Eckler going 10 rushes for 11 yards to finish out his season, which is just unbelievable to me.
Thank God we didn't see Isaiah Spiller, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, why would we want to see the only running back that's under contract next season in the last game of the season? Yeah, why would anybody want to
It could not
see
have been
that?
worse.
Oh, my gosh. I could not believe that when that inactive list came out. What are we doing here? What is going on with that? But, yeah, I mean, just so many of the same issues that we saw all season long, Daniel, showing up again in this football game.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, the protections, like, the thing is this season could have looked a lot different if the Chargers had good protection in key moments early in the year when they started 0-2, when they fell to 2-4. Every one of those single games the Chargers had was derailed by critical pressure and Justin Herbert barely
starting from the very first game.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing is, like, you have good individual performances. Like, that performance against the Miami Dolphins was really, really good. One of the best, most efficient offensive performances of the season. The game you had against the Lions, one of the most efficient, offensive performances of the season. Both of those were losses, right? And so that's not all on Kellen Moore, right? But you do, I mean, the Chargers' last win was a 6-0 win over a Patriots team that's likely about to fire Bill Belichick, right? Because they were so bad this year. So, like, those protection issues in those gotta-have-it situations, in those late-game situations. The Chargers' offense was bad in late-game situations basically all season. They never found any success there. And, yeah, I mean, Eckler and Kelly going 12 carries for 12 yards is pretty symbolic of the rushing issues they had all season.
That's not a joke, people. That's not a joke.
What it was. 12 carries for 12 yards from Eckler and Kelly. So, like, I mean, yeah, Easton Stick ran the ball. But, like, that's the other thing about this is just Easton Stick kind of got that 4-game tryout to show, hey, I can keep things afloat when Justin Herbert's gone. And I'm not going to put it all on Easton Stick, how bad the offense was in these performances, right? But at the same time, though, he didn't give you a reason to really keep him around either. So I think the best kind of news going forward is just that the next time we see the Chargers playing football, it'll be Justin Herbert back out there. And David, I hope that the fans kind of have a better respect for Justin Herbert and kind of a better respect for how bad things can be without him after seeing what this last month of the football season looked like.
I mean, I absolutely love Dicker the kicker, man. I think he's one of my favorites, but my goodness. I think I saw enough field goals in the last 3 games to last me another 3 seasons. Like, there was 1 touchdown that was scored in the last 3 games alone, and that was a rushing touchdown by Easton Stick himself. No, Easton Stick is not the backup quarterback of the future. That offense was abysmal. Whenever they got into the red zone, they could not score at all. It was not pretty. Not pretty at all. Not something I want to see anymore. And yes, Lord, please bring the prophet, the angel Justin Herbert back to us in good health and with a offense that can accentuate his just unbelievable talents. Because we sorely missed what he is capable of doing on a game-in, game-out basis. His ability to escape pressure, his just beautiful passes that he's able to hit receivers in stride. It's just a completely different ballgame. And yes, I so appreciate the fact that we have gotten to watch Justin Herbert and that he is under contract for another 5 seasons, because that's the only guy I want to see playing quarterback for my team.
Yeah, the Chargers went 0-4 without him, which maybe is predictable, right? Even lost to the Chiefs backup, even though I thought they were going to win this game. They almost won this game, right? But this is per Timo Risk of PFF, who says 14 teams had to start a backup for at least 3 games this season. The only one of those 14 teams to not win a game with a backup was the Chargers. Overall, 19 teams this year won a game with their backup quarterback. The Chargers couldn't do it in 4 games, right? So, you see how much Justin Herbert has kind of been dragging this roster and dragging this team to success and keeping them competitive year in and year out, even if it hasn't always really shown itself in playoff berths, right? Like, now you're kind of seeing when it's laid bare like this, it's pretty ugly. And the only thing that can really help this team right now, especially in 2024 when they're a little strapped, is Justin Herbert being Herculean once again, right? And now it's just up to, okay, how can you make it so that you can get him in an offense, get him with a stable coaching staff and a stable front office that can build around him and not have as much change as we've seen over his first 4 seasons in the NFL, because it's just too much, man. But I did think the Chargers defense looked better. I mean, in this game, they gave up 6 points after, a touchdown that was a fumble inside the 10-yard line that gets taken all the way back by the Chiefs for a touchdown, right? Can't count that against them. But Khalil Mack in particular, man, he has to get a shout out on this show. Gets the 17th sack in this game, ends up tying what the franchise record is for sacks in a single season with Sean Merriman and Leslie O'Neal. 17 sacks. I feel like it's fitting that he tied it, and I think, David, one of the brightest spots in a really, really bad season.
I mean, the only consistent guy that showed up week in and week out throughout the entire season, and he did everything at an extremely high level. Whether it was rushing the passer, whether it was winning with speed or winning with power, or just being a physical force in the run game, running across the field, just tackling guys with authority, making his presence felt. You definitely felt Khalil Mack in all of these football games. 17 games played, did not miss a single game this entire season.
Or last
17 sacks, 21 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles, 10 passes defensed. Khalil Mack literally impacted the game in as many ways as he possibly could. He did everything he could to help to will this Chargers team, not only on the field, but off the field as a leader as well. He was a glue guy from the moment that he got here, a guy that was notorious for, starting dinners, bringing his teammates out, trying to get the offense and defense to come together, try to be more cohesive. This is a guy who has honestly been a model teammate, a model man, and a guy who's been really exciting to watch, and he just had one of the best years of his Hall of Fame career.
And one of the best years of any Chargers edge rusher ever, right? Peak Sean Merriman type of season. Yeah. And it just sucks that it had to come in a season with nothing to show for it. And the hard thing is the trade itself feels like it was a good trade. Khalil Mack has lived up to his trade value in a lot of ways, right? He has been great for them, has played in every single game. I think he's brought a level of physicality to the Chargers defense that they desperately needed. He's just a dog that they desperately needed, right? And I mean, just in this game, a sack, 3 tackles for loss, 2 passes batted down. I mean, I think he has more pass breakups than any Chargers player not named Asante Samuel Jr., right? He
I
has
wouldn't
more
be
pass
surprised.
breakups than the rest of the secondary. Like, he has been that good. Had a couple today that would have probably been easy first downs if he doesn't get a hand on it. Like, he just is that good. And now the biggest thing is just like, is this the last game that we'll see Khalil Mack, right?
I sure hope not.
That is a possibility. And I think what he did show this year, though, is, hey, if you bring me back, if he wants to be back, if you can, show him that you can be competitive in 2024, he's still got some juice, right? But the biggest thing now is finding the right people that are going to be here to make that big decision, because the Chargers have a ton of big decisions. And yes, they have to pick the head coach, but they also have to pick the general manager who's going to be making the decisions on these big contracts like Derwin James and like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. How can they salvage what this roster has? Because I think we saw over the last couple of weeks, even without wins, this is a team that can be competitive when they're coached correctly, and that's why I think Gift Smith did such a great job. But now it turns forward. The page turns. It's a new era of Chargers football that starts now. The final game is over. That mess is behind us. How do they get it right going forward? We're going to talk about that coming up right after this. First, though, I do need to tell you guys about FanDuel, because the regular season is over, but there's still time to get on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And if you guys want to join FanDuel now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. I don't know about you guys, but the best way to bet for me is where even if I can lose, I can win. And if you lose with that $5 bet, you still get the $150 in bonus bets. And the other good news is you can't lose anything betting on Chargers football, but they are going to have a ton of great promotions going on for this playoff. And it's not just football. You can bet on whatever you want with FanDuel. You still have NBA and NHL season in full bore right now. So make sure you guys go check out FanDuel, because it's the only place I place my bets with live same game parlays, bets in the new Explore tab that helps you find the parlays in the Parlay Hub, the most popular parlays going on right now, and obviously just live betting in general. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We are full steam ahead, and thank you guys for making us your first listen today. And make sure you're back here with us tomorrow, because we're going to know the outcome of the national championship game in the college playoffs. And I'm excited to see that, because Chargers potential coach Jim Harbaugh is playing in that. More on that. But David, right now, we turn the page. It's all full steam ahead, right? The Chargers need to find their next head coach and general manager, and how they decide it and who they end up picking is going to have a butterfly effect that is going to affect this team for many, many years down the roads, potentially decades down the roads if they don't get it right. Or if they do get it right, maybe they're starting a brand new non-Chargering era of Chargers football. But I do have to tell people that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, so make sure you go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Beginning of a new era, David. It starts now. Now is when you have to go secure the next head coach and general manager for this team, and making sure you get it right for Justin Herbert and this Chargers fan base. Let's be honest, man. If you want to get this Chargers fan base involved, you have to be able to get this right and get people to start caring about this team, because you've done so much to make them not care about it over the last several seasons.
So many excruciating losses, just so many embarrassing performances, and you it's just always the team that has all of the talent, all of the hype, all of the talk in the offseason, during the season, just to disappoint everybody. And I mean, I think that's just been the hardest thing, because you see individual players and you know that these guys can win, if they have the right leadership, if they have the right situations that they're put in, and they have not been able to do that up to this point. So getting this hire right is critical. It's crucial. Honestly, I think it's one of the biggest turning points in the history of this franchise. When you have Justin Herbert on this contract, you owe it to yourself in the investment that you made to get the head coach and the general manager correct and get it right, and go out there and actually do what it takes to win a championship. Go out there and make it to the playoffs. Go out there and win the division for the first time in over a decade. These are all things that we have not seen, and quite frankly forgot how it felt like to be dominant. That's what it's been like being a Charger fan over the last several seasons. It's just been a lot of hope and not a lot of substance. So getting this hire right is of paramount importance.
And the thing is the other reason you have to get it right is because you have some tough waters ahead of you. Like you have to have someone who's going to be able to navigate what's in 2024, which is a banged up salary cap situation where you're going to have to make gigantic decisions on guys with gigantic contracts, like deciding between a Joey Bosa and a Khalil Mack, deciding between a Keenan Allen and a Mike Williams, even if it seems obvious to us. For cap reasons and financial reasons, it might not go down the way we think it will. We know what we would want them to do, but who they decide to keep is going to have a huge impact on what this 2024 season looks like. The other big thing is you want to also know why it's so important for them to get these picks right. You have the 5th overall draft pick, like we talked about. You can't afford to miss. Like, we don't know. Hopefully the Chargers aren't this bad again in a long time. And that's, for a long time. But that's number one. The reason that you have to get this right is so you avoid seasons like this. You avoid prime seasons of Justin Herbert's career where you get to week 18 and you want the Chargers to lose for a better draft pick. That's what you're trying to avoid here. And making sure you get this right and making sure that you're doing your due diligence and also putting your money where your mouth is to make sure that, the cost is not going to be what stops you from potentially getting the right person is so important, because that whoever makes that next pick, you better hope you're paying the right guy that's going to be picking 5th in the draft and having, the fifth pick in the 2nd round and the 3rd round and so on and so forth, right? And also finding a way to salvage what's left on this roster, because I think there are players who could be salvaged, but you need the right eyes to be watching that tape to make these decisions on how to best construct this roster going forward, because I think we can all say with Tom Telesco wasn't good enough. You have the next guy coming in, he has to be better. He has to hit on more. He has to hit more singles and doubles. It can't just be the 1st round picks, right? And I think now the big thing is, will any of the Chargers staff be back? Because that's the next move. The season is over now. Who are we going to see get the chop on Monday? Who can the Chargers retain? Will we see anybody retained right away?
Yeah, I mean, looking at this staff, obviously a lot of these guys have ties with Brandon Staley, who has been let go, obviously. I love Gift Smith. I hope that there is an opportunity for him to come back. I just don't see it. I think you're going to bring in a guy who's going to want to bring in all of his own guys. I think if we're talking about
the same boat,
exactly. Prior.
Gift Smith predated Brandon Staley. The guys love him, but it's just that you don't see coaches go from interim back to a defensive line coach. It just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it's hard to make that transition back.
Ryan Ficken, though,
that's the one right there. Obviously, I think Ryan Ficken has shown, even from last year to this year, that he is one of the best special teams coaches in the NFL. And I don't care what you got to do to retain that guy, promote him, give him a different title, give him more money. He has earned it by far. I mean, not only did he turn it around, he did it quickly. And so that's one of those guys, I think, from the staff, you absolutely got to do whatever it takes to bring him back, because it is clear that he knows how to do his job at a high level.
Well, the thing is a lot of this Chargers coaching staff isn't going to be back, right? Maybe, hey, Dan Quinn gets hired, maybe he keeps Kellen Moore, and I still even think that's kind of a long shot, right? We don't know really what their relationship was when they were together. I think you have to try to retain Ryan Ficken, but I think a lot of this is going to have to do with who you pick. If you pick Jim Harbaugh, right, he's probably going to want to build the team in his image, for lack of a better term. Like, he's going to want his own guys in there. He's going to think he knows the best guys to do that job. I think the Chargers, like they have before, are going to try to keep Ryan Ficken, of course. But if the next guy doesn't want Ryan Ficken, are you going to let that stop you from going and getting your guy? Probably not, right? So, I'd rather have Ryan Ficken as the coach than Jim Harbaugh. Wait, nobody's saying that, right? You want Ryan Ficken to an extent. Sure. I think after you saw what happened Michigan's special teams last week, I think he would hopefully want him as well, because Ryan Ficken is the truth. And there are going to be other coaches. But, if you really want to get your guy, you're going to have to give that next coach, right, one of these top-tier guys, you're going to have to give him carte blanche and let him bring in whoever he wants, which also means letting go of whoever he wants. So you got to kind of brace yourself for that. But down, David, we turn the page, and we hope that on Monday night we get to see Jim Harbaugh win the national championship and ride off into the sunset and potentially make his leap back to the NFL and with the Chargers.
That's exactly what I want to see. I will be having my eyeballs glued to the TV screen in hopes that he does win that championship. He fulfills everything that he needed to do at the college realm, and that he goes back to finish his coaching career winning a Super Bowl for the Chargers, baby. Let's go.
Not many guys have done both, right? If he wins the Natty, then comes to the NFL and wins a Super Bowl. Not only comes to the NFL and wins a Super Bowl, but comes to the NFL and wins a Super Bowl with a team who's never done it before. Yeah, that's that's legendary stuff. That gets you written in the record books, right?
No
and
doubt.
that's what we're all going to be hoping for. Not that he lost in the Natty ends up, potentially making it so he doesn't go, right? But it feels like he'd be a little at least more likely if he can complete everything there. He still has sanctions. He's still going to be suspended at some point next year if he stays at Michigan. And it feels like it's real this time, but he's tricked NFL teams before. But I think winning, and that's what I'm going to be hoping for, is this the closest thing we're going to get to, him actually wanting to leave and it being the right time for him. So we're going to be watching out for that. Yeah, and we'll be talking about it on tomorrow's show because it is your team every day. Thank you guys for checking out the show today. To make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe and follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. We will be here every day until June, right? You're not getting rid of us. We have a very exciting offseason to talk about, a lot of changes. Excited to look into these new GM potential guys, looking into this new coaching staff as they fill it out because this is a huge, huge offseason in Chargers history. And we get to watch it all unfold, so we hope you guys are here with us. And to make sure you don't miss it, you can also follow us on social media, on Twitter at LockedOnLAC, on our Instagram at LockedOnChargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. So that's going to be it. We will be back with you guys tomorrow, as we always are, with the results of the national championship game, talking about Jim Harbaugh, getting into our buy or sells, and much more. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.